Cool. Okay, fine. We're back. So welcome those who are joining us here today. This is going to be the first of a series which we're doing on Sunday evenings from 8 p.m. until 8 p.m. until 9. And so it'll just be conversations with people about certain like a mixture of topics essentially. So today we're going to have Kerry Phillips on. Kerry Phillips runs an organization called Saving Souls, which who's just joined now. I'll get you to join now, man. Give me 2 seconds. Yes, DJ Platinum, how you doing? So Kerry, I know that's you saving souls. If it is, give me a thumbs up. We're going to be having a conversation today. It's going to be around lots of different things, sport and mental health. We'll be having guests every Sunday from 8 p.m. until 9. Make sure you follow the channel if you haven't. Follow, 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 follow. Cool. So I'm going to introduce him and we're just going to have a conversation, really open dialogue about what he does, mental health, and a few other things as well. Okay, so the only thing I ask, obviously, in the comments, in the interactions as well, just keep it respectful and interact when you can. If you're agreeing, if you've got your own points, if you've got your own questions, please put them below, and we'll be more than happy to discuss them as well. Okay, so let's just join, and hopefully, let's see how it goes. This is the first time we're doing this one, you see, so we'll see. So I've sent you an invite now, man, so you should be able to join. And yeah, man, here we go. Let's see, it's just joining up now, man. Hello, man, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't see you though. Is your camera on?
Yeah, live access. You need to go live on, what's he saying? Live access needed to go live on video.
Hmm.
As a guest, you need to go live on audio. But ain't I live on audio? You can hear me, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can. Let me try and do it another way. Let me see if I can co-host with you instead and try that way. Um, let's co-host some creators, guests. Oh, let's go this way. See, I knew this would happen, but we will see. But if not, this is what we can do. We can just have the conversation without him being on camera, and we'll just have it that way, yeah, if it comes to it, yeah. Cool. Yeah, man. What we'll do is, if you've got, there you go, man. Don't worry, if you can't go on camera, that's cool. We'll make it work, yeah.
That's calm, that's
But
calm,
you
that's
can hear me
calm.
and everything, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's just wild how
Perfect.
this is really moving. Hold on, let's see my
I think
setup.
with if you've got the live feature, I think yeah, if you've got the live feature, you can go live in it. But
So what, do I need to have a live feature or something?
for video potentially, yeah. Someone said to me this might be an issue in it, but it's like we're still gonna make it work, man. It's okay. We can make some clips and what I'll do is I'll put like an image of
Yeah, that's
you
calm, that's
over this and
calm, my
stuff.
bro.
So I'm not really too worried about that. So
That's
yeah,
calm,
man.
my bro.
Thanks for like I guess sitting down is the use of a better word and chatting with me. So how we'll do it is like how I kind of do all my interviews, just a little introduction about yourself, what you do, and then we'll just have an open conversation, man. Just imagine it's you and me here, and that's how it works.
That's cool, my bro. That's cool, that's cool.
Yeah, so tell me, so for the audience who are here, welcome to you guys. Don't forget to like the video by tapping away on the screen. Likes are free, love is not, like I like to say. Um, any questions and stuff you have for us, fire them down below. Obviously, keep everything respectful, and we're going to be live for around an hour as well. Okay, so if you're feeling what's been talked about in these conversations, send it across to as many people as you can. So I'm joined by Kerry Phillips, who is I'm gonna call you the CEO, man. Is that right? The CEO of Saving Souls Hub, CEO, the founder, the co-founder. Actually, but I'll let you introduce who you are and what you do, man.
Yeah, man. So I'm Kerry Phillips. I run a mental health organization called Saving Souls. Um, Effectively, what we try to do is we're for using useful spaces, useful resources, safe spaces, and sports to tackle isolation and loneliness. But at the forefront, it's more about the focus of the prevention of mental health and the improvement of well-being.
Okay.
So we got like 9 different projects that we run at the moment. Yeah, nine different projects and all different ways that we can kind of connect with people and try and bring community together.
Okay. And you guys are based in Southeast? Is that
Yeah,
right,
Southeast
Catford?
London, Southeast London.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
based over there.
And so I know a little bit about the background already, but what made you start the company? And got to this space?
Do you know what? I think there was a number of things, but the main one really was COVID.
Hmm.
When COVID hit, I noticed a lot of my brethren, a lot of my male brethren,
Hmm.
you'd speak to them and you can kind of hear that they're not good. But
Hmm.
like us as men, for a long time, we don't really talk anyway. Do you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We don't really chat. So I got to a point where I was like, what is a way that I can try and get men together in a room that can maybe start opening up and being a bit more vulnerable within themselves and around people? But I knew that I needed something like a vehicle to drive that. So what I
Hmm.
started with was free football every Friday, or every other Friday, I should say, for men. So a safe space for men to come and play football for free. They don't have to pay no joining fee or anything like that. Because another thing with I think with men is that if we can't afford it, we won't admit we can't afford it. So
Hmm.
if we eradicate the barriers from now, all you got to do is just join. You just got to turn up. Do you get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I put that on, and then from that we used the football to drive like a community together in order for us to build a men's forum, so that every month now we have a men's forum where we meet, we talk, we just catch up, and basically provide that space where men can just feel free to be vulnerable, not be judged, and a space where they feel like, you know what, if I do want to talk about some ish, I can talk about some ish. If I don't want to talk about it, then cool.
Yeah.
So it's just providing that place for them, that safe space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say about COVID because I was having a conversation, I think just after COVID, sort of 2021, with a guy, and he runs a men's mental health. Well, initially it was like men's mental health podcast, and he spoke about the idea of people over the period of COVID, the idea that that's when guys really felt that kind of loneliness.
Yeah,
Guys really felt like they were struggling to deal with things.
yeah,
And I think it's a combination of things because we all remember what COVID like. We all remember what the pandemic was like. It limited us going outside. It limited us interacting with our friends. Limited us going to the gym, eating
yeah,
well, and all these things. And they impacted everyone's mental health, especially guys, because I think I don't know about most people, but for me, whether that's sport or fitness, or gym or whatever, that's a really big outlet for me. And I feel in myself when I can't get there or I can't go, I become frustrated. It's that's my release. That's my mental, like helping my mental health as well, right?
yeah,
So I think sport is something which is it's I love how you describe it as a vehicle because
yeah,
essentially that's what it is because that kind of even when you watch like match of the day or you watch your favorite football team, there's always this talk of the atmosphere in the dressing room,
yeah,
the
yeah,
atmosphere in the dressing room, working with people in the dressing room, working with the manager, etc., building those kind of brotherhood um brotherhood communities and stuff like that, and it's always come from sports. And I believe the idea of brotherhood and teamwork and sport always kind of combine,
yeah, yeah,
and I think that's what we see. That's what we see the most for sure, because there's a few spaces where that's prominent. There's sport. There's also stuff like the army when people were in the army,
yeah,
or if you guys have gone through something together, whether that be positive or negative.
yeah,
There's always a sense of brotherhood that guys are even longing for. Even when you talk about gangs, like we have a really big problem with gangs
yeah,
in the UK. Obviously, not as bad as some places in America, but the
yeah,
idea, the why gangs are so appealing to young men, for example,
yeah,
is the idea of family, the idea of unity,
yeah, yeah,
and that common goal. And usually, what happens is when young boys especially, um, don't have that kind of support system, whether
yeah,
that be at home or they're having issues at school, the idea of the gang,
yeah,
even though they're not always gangs, they're just groups of guys,
yeah,
that gives them kind of safety. And
mm,
I think what's happening at the minute, especially, is that when it comes to dealing with men's mental health in particular, it's they're trying to deal with it the same way they deal with women's mental health.
yeah,
And I think that's not the right thing to do. So I've heard women talk about men's mental health, which is good, but
yeah,
it's the lightheartedness of it is this. It's like we want men to talk more, we want men to share more, and then we'll go and do a podcast where we talk and share, and they'll be like, no, like not everyone should have a microphone kind of attitude. And it's like, no,
yeah,
this is what we believe our safe space is.
yeah,
There's struggles and challenges that we face that fortunately women don't, and they have
yeah,
struggles they have struggles which we don't deal with, you know.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
I do think what's happening in a minute is that even though we're getting encouraged to talk, I always believe anyway that this is going to sound a little bit controversial, but I believe that women don't care about men's mental health, and I wouldn't advise a guy who's struggling to speak to a girl about it. And the only reason I say that is
Hmm.
because what I go back to earlier is that the struggles and challenges that we have, they're
Yeah,
not going to be identified with the same way, you
yeah.
know, we would. Like, have you ever found that, or am I just being a little bit too
I
blunt?
would, I would personally say I disagree to
Hmm.
some degree.
Yeah.
I tell you why is because I think you've got to find that safe space with that specific person. I
Hmm.
think sometimes as men, like we try and find this woman that we want to be our peace, and we talk about all this stuff.
Hmm.
I want this woman to be my peace. I want this blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden we bring this woman in, but then we've got to understand as well that if we're doing foolishness on our end, right,
Hmm.
that woman can't be that peace if that's the person that we're trying to find that in, if we're doing the foolishness too. So
Hmm.
for me, I feel like women do care. Some, no, not all women, but some women do care about men's mental health. But also as well, I think as men, we've got to understand we can't talk to every and anyone. So
Yes. Yeah.
touching on what you said with regards to like COVID, right?
Hmm.
So what I think some people miss with regards to COVID and the fact of men's mental health is the fact that like you see us as men, like as you just mentioned, we like to go to the gym, whether it's football or go to do some sort of sport, some sort of activity, right? A lot of times within that, that's where we're able to hide a lot of the stuff that we're going through, sorry, from our partners, from our loved
Hmm.
ones, from the kids at home. So now
Hmm.
you're in COVID and you're in this home and you can't do all the stuff that used to help you get rid of all of the stress before, and now you're in a house where everybody is situated in the same house. Now they can actually see physically you
Hmm.
struggling through certain things. That was one of the key things I think for me in my household where I realized, nah, I need to create an outlet. I definitely need to create an outlet because a lot of the times we go to the gym, we go to football, we go to all these spaces, but the real thing
Hmm.
is this. That is just a pain relief. That's not a pain remedy.
Oh,
It's
okay,
all good.
nice.
You get what I'm saying? Like it's
Mm,
all good and well saying that I'm going to go to the gym and you go for an hour workout, but then
mm,
really and truly the underlying issues and the root causes of what you're actually going through is still going to be there. You just felt good for 90 minutes.
mm.
You feel me?
But how do you, what I always wonder about is that how do you start the conversation with others? For me and the situations I've had with people, I just kind of let them know that I'm here. Like some people are like, oh, I don't know how to emotionally put it across or whatever, especially with guys and friendship groups, especially.
Yeah.
We just like rip on each other all the time. We take the piss out of each other.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and the girls are like, what? Like, you lot are so mean to each other. Go, nah, like, that's my guy, man. Like,
Yeah,
that's my
yeah, yeah,
guy.
yeah.
He's just like, he needs a better dress sense, or we just mock each other. We
Yeah.
just mock each other all the time. It's just our way of communicating. But I think when it comes down to serious stuff, we don't have to go super, super deep. It's just creating a safe space where they can talk. Like my friend was going through some really tough stuff over the last couple of years, and we all just kind of sat down with him over a beer, and we just said, "Look, man, like all this stuff is going on, and it's going to be tough now. It'll get better, but look, I don't know how you want to deal with this, but know that we're here, and don't feel like you can't
That's
talk to
dope.
anyone.
That's
Like
dope.
we're always gonna be here. Like we're always, it's a long story, but the short version is he had some relationship trouble. Then he lost one
Yeah,
of his parents, and then he lost another one of his parents, and so it was really tough for him, right? And you
yeah,
could see it on his face, but obviously he's just going through the process, and it's just about us just saying, literally just saying to him, look, because I think that's another thing, we don't know how people deal with their pain. Some people
yeah,
deal
yeah,
with their pain in the sense of bottling it down. Some people throw themselves into work. Some people their personality changes. Some
yeah.
people act like everything's fine. There's so many different ways that people dealing with it. Like, and him, he's quite a quiet dude, so you don't know of which way it's going to go. And we just wanted to let him know that don't let it go. This is a dark time, and we acknowledge that, but don't let
Yeah.
it take you to a dark place almost.
I think for me personally, because what I'm not
Mm,
gonna do is there's a lot of people out there that will preach they know everything, innit? I'm just talking
Mm-hmm.
about from my experiences, right? And
Yeah.
what I feel like is that with a lot of times when I've realized that one of my brethrens is really going through something, sometimes I've got to allow myself to be vulnerable first in order for them to understand that it's okay to be that. Sometimes I have to maybe
Okay.
get them to a point where it's like, you know what, I might be talking to them about something, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
it might just open up a little bit for them to segue in to say, you know what, my bro, I'm actually going through the same thing. Prime example, right? One of my boys on the live at the moment, Tally Up Ticks, shout out you. Yeah. We went we went Nando's a couple weeks back, and with him, I know that we can just literally chop it up over food, and there's no problems whatsoever. And we can talk about how we're feeling. We can talk about making sure that we're both good on each other's side. We don't have no problems whatsoever. But it might be another brethren where it might be like, you know what? Can we go for a drive?
Mm-hmm.
And it might just be while you're going through that drive, you'll be surprised to know that like some people, some of the guys that you're going that's going through stuff will just happily just share and open up just while you're driving. I don't know. Do
Mm-hmm.
you play football, Rob?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is there times where you've basically gone to football or you're dropping one of your brethrens, like dropping one of the players, and all of a sudden it turns into a deep conversation on the way home from
Yeah,
football?
yeah, yeah.
Or it
It could be
turns,
anything. It could be anything that it could be like football, the gym, like even like some. It's like even sometimes like you're chatting, and sometimes my boy will drop me off,
yeah,
and he'll be outside mine, and we'll be chatting for another
one
like
hundred
15, 20
percent.
minutes. You know.
What and this is where I think what in my humble opinion is taken away from the whole big side of things because there's good mental health and there's poor mental health, right?
Okay.
Sometimes it's not necessarily that you're going through depression. Sometimes it's not necessarily you're going through anxiety, and not necessarily you're going through social anxiety. You're just in a bit of a bad place,
Yeah.
and you're just in a bit of a bad place, and you just really kind of need somebody to kind of help you navigate that. Like me and you, for example, Rob, we could be going through the same thing, right? And me personally, I used to talk about my problems when they're solved. As soon as they're solved, that's when I'll
Mhm.
talk about them. But me and you could be going through the exact same thing, and I might say to you, yo, bro, yeah, man was having a madness at work, but I'm all good now. You might say to me, bro, do you know I've been going through the same thing? We might be
Mhm.
the best of friends. But if we had spoken about that earlier, we might have been able to navigate that together. Do you get what I'm
But
saying?
it's funny actually. You say about that about solutions. You only kind of bring it out when you've solved it. I think that's part of the way we talk as well. The way we express stuff is that it's like put it this way. So sometimes women just want to vent. I use women and men just as a little comparison. Sometimes women want to vent and
Exactly.
they don't want a solution, they just want to
Yeah,
vent. Guys don't really feel like venting unless they have, like you're saying, like either have a solution or
exactly.
going to solve it, because then they feel kind of useless. And I think it also goes down to the control. If you can control the issue,
Yeah,
then it mentally you feel better. So I think
yeah,
with your case of being able to say after it's happened, you saying,
yeah,
okay, on reflection, this is what happened, and I dealt with it this way, and now I can pass this on to someone else to say,
yeah,
look, I had a similar situation. This is how I dealt with it. Because I think sometimes you probably don't want to, someone doesn't want to be venting something to you, and you
yeah.
not being able to help them by almost solving their problem.
And but that's the thing as well. Sometimes you've got to understand that you know what, right? Like for example, I've got my friendship circle in boxes,
Hmm.
right? And the reason why I have that is because you know what, the same brethren that I might want to go raving with might not be the same brethren that if I'm struggling I'm
Hmm.
going to go to. And
Yeah.
the reason why I put it in boxes is because of the fact that if, for example, I say to my brethren that I want to go raving with, and I say to him, yo, bro, you know what, I'm struggling, you know, and he turns around and says to me, oh, bro, get out of that, man. Can't we go strip club? That's
Yeah.
not the
That's not,
brethren
yeah, the energy.
that I
Yeah. Yeah.
want. But also, as well, what it could potentially do is make me look at him differently as well because I'm looking at him like you're my brethren. Like, how
Mhm.
can you come and tell me that I'm supposed to we can just go to the strip club? You're not actually there to actually support me. So rather than me actually feeling like you know what that might not be my brethren because he could be my brethren in different ways.
Mhm.
Rather than that, I have different people for different things. So different boxes, I will know. Do you know what? The same one that I might be struggling with might be the same one I say. Do you know what? Let's not go raving together because he
Mhm.
might just be cool and just be chilling, and he might not want to do that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's very important that you understand that some of your brethren as well are not emotionally intelligent enough to deal with what you're going through because they haven't actually dealt with what they're going through.
Yeah.
You get what
But
I'm
that's the
saying?
thing. We have different groups of friends, right? And there's some that we can talk to about certain stuff. There's some people who you just want to kind of vibe with, and you have that kind of relationship with. And then there's others where you can be a little bit more open.
Yeah,
And there's others where you just have like sometimes I think the thing is about male friendships in general. They say that it's a lot harder for us to form friends in our 30s. So let's say you know people from when you went to school, people from uni, people you worked with, etc.
yeah,
By the time you get to sort of my age, it's like mid 30s,
yeah,
you're not really going to meet any new friends. I mean, I kind of disagree with, they say you're not supposed to meet any new friends, but me, I talk to everyone, so I always end up meeting
yeah,
people quite
yeah,
easily. But generally, they're like, that's your set group. And I
yeah.
think it's interesting the fact of how the friendships work. I have friends who I might have not spoken to for like 5 years, yeah.
Hmm.
But I know that if he rang me, I'll be like, oh yeah, cool,
Yeah, I got you.
let's meet up, yeah, and
Yeah,
my missus thinks that's super weird. I'm like, oh yeah, like you don't have to see someone
we
every
could do
week or
that.
whatever. Like my best mate, best man at my wedding, he moved to Southampton, and he's been my friend since I was like 17. And like, even though he's gone to Southampton, I might not, I'll chat to him like what, maybe like once a month, let's say.
Yeah,
But then when he comes back to ends, yeah, no problem, let's link up. Like, do you know
yeah.
what I mean? So, but I think like women relationships are slightly different. They kind of need to be in each other's life quite frequently for it to count almost. But guys can understand that people life is busy, in it. Like now there's a certain stage where everyone's kind of settled down or people have got kids, so you know you can't see them all the time, and most people get that. But when you link up, it's all love, you know?
And I think this is where like the men and women dynamics um are totally different because of the fact that um women speak more. So
Mm,
because women speak more, they need to speak more. So they need to
yeah.
speak to each other a lot more. Do you get what I'm saying? If you don't speak to somebody for five, like you said, you can talk to somebody and might not speak to them for 5 months, right? But a woman could potentially form a new friendship just by speaking to somebody for the last 2 weeks every day in a row.
But then can you argue that those friendships aren't as sustainable, or they're not full as much substance as the male's friendship?
The thing is this, right? I definitely get what you're saying, but I genuinely believe that because with women's mental health as well, right? I think
Hmm.
a lot of women have learned to they've learned to deal with things, not necessarily got over it. Does that make sense?
They've learned to deal with things and not got over. Oh, so like trauma, almost. They've
Yes.
got trauma. You know, it's funny. You know what? It's funny you say that. It's because, well, trauma is a different thing. I think trauma makes men and destroys women, but that's another conversation. But essentially, I think what I don't like about this idea is that if someone has had something in their past which is negative and they haven't addressed it, it usually spills over to other aspects of their life. So if
Yeah.
we was to talk about dating and you've met a girl and she's been hurt by her ex, for example, and if she hasn't dealt with that, now that goes those trust issues, etc. They roll over to you.
Yeah.
And I think guys don't they deal with it for a lot longer, even when we talk about breakups. Guys have a breakup and initially they might be fine, but they'll hold it in their heart a lot longer, process it,
Yeah.
and then get with someone. So I think I'm sympathetic to people who have had bad situations or bad experiences, whether that be at work or in relationships or whatever it may be. But if they're choosing not to address it, they can't use it as a crutch because it will impact every aspect of their life.
100%. And that's this is where accountability is so important
Hmm.
in terms of if you're trying to deal with your own mental health and you're trying to deal with your traumas, right?
Hmm.
It's so important because if you I was when I was speaking to my therapist, right? And they said there was something they introduced me to which is called the victim triangle, right?
Okay.
And if you if you're portraying and being out to be the victim, right? The victim triangle, you have a victim, a rescuer, and a perpetrator, right?
Okay.
So the
Okay.
victim will have the victim at the bottom, right?
Hmm.
And let's say the triangle goes over to the right, right? Goes
Yeah.
up, right? Then you become the rescuer because you've
Okay.
come to a place where you've rescued them, you made them feel a lot better, and you've got to a point where you're like, you know what, like I'm feeling so much better within myself. But
Mm,
if you continue to be the victim and don't address the account and take accountability for what you've gone wrong with, right? As soon as that rescuer does something wrong, they
yeah.
then become the perpetrator.
Okay.
They then become the perpetrator, and then all of a sudden, you've gone from being this person that's helped them, and that could be for man or women. That you
Yeah.
come from this person that's helped them get through everything. To all of a sudden, you're not doing something the way that they want them to do. They want you to do it. Then you become the perpetrator, and now basically you
You're the
are in the
victim.
bad books of the victim. And this is why
Okay.
what he was saying to me is that in terms of being the victim, you have to get yourself out of it because you'll end up looking at people that are rescuers, move them over to perpetrator when really and truly all they're trying to do is basically make you see things differently.
Yeah.
But because it's not what you want to hear, they then personally go into the perpetrator.
Well, this is the thing. You say that actually, it's quite interesting. I have I guess, an issue with the
Yeah.
idea of victim mentality. I don't like the idea of victim mentality because to me, someone who's a victim dwells on what has happened or what has not happened to them, more specifically, what's not happened to them. So if I'm thinking of someone in my mind and they have a victim mentality, they
Mm-hmm.
have the ability and tools to make their life better or their situation better, but
Yeah.
they take delight in being the victim almost because
Mm-hmm.
then it's an idea of, oh, like, yeah, what a woe of me attitude. And I think there's a certain point where it's not that I should help these people. Like I like we spoke about literally a moment ago about solutions. I like to offer people solutions, or at least or like offering it a way where that can help them or support them. Probably um not a perpetrator. What's the other one you said?
Perpetrator, rescuer, and then
A
perpetrator.
rescuer. Yeah, it's almost like a rescuer. But
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. But because I focus when that happens, I know like emotionally things are different, but I like to focus on things which are in a person's control because that's how I like to deal with things. It
Yeah.
also leads to another issue where recently as well, maybe in the last few years, it took me a while to understand that people's way of thinking is different. We presume everyone thinks like us.
Yeah. And they don't.
Th- and they don't. And like when you try to get through to someone based on your own way of thinking, which differs from their own way of thinking, then
You
it's
start
it's
getting
it's
to a point where it's long in it. Like you start
yeah, it's
thinking,
just
long.
frustrating. So
And I,
now my mind, I'm just like, okay, this person don't think like me. That's what I think, and then that's it. And that gives me a lot of clarity, a lot less frustration, and a lot more patience with that person because I know it's not their fault. It's just their, I guess, their lens almost.
and this is where it goes back to for me the reason why I run these spaces is because of the fact that not just because of the fact that I've gone through my own mental health, but also the fact that being a follower of Christ, I really try to make sure that I have empathy and
Hmm.
understanding that a lot of people don't do things like me. So
Hmm.
I have a lot more patience for people that I'll say quote unquote have victim mentality because maybe they've just never seen the light. Maybe they've never seen something different within their household. They've never seen something different within their family. So like a lot of the stuff that's happened in some people's life, like it goes back generations. It goes back. So
Hmm.
if you're continuously seeing that and seeing that and seeing that, it's like a prime example. One of my personal opinions, and once again, this is personal. I'm not saying I'm right here. A lot of fathers have broken women's hearts before any man that has come onto the scene.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
saying, right?
yeah.
So when I look at it from that point, there are some women that are going through certain things and maybe seeing certain things in certain men that may be good, but because of the fact that they've got issues with their father, they
Hmm.
see that within that man. Now,
Hmm.
me personally, if you if that's something that you and I'm not and once again and what I'm saying, I'm not saying you're supposed to tolerate this. I'm not saying that. If it's
Hmm.
something that you can't deal with, and I think that's both ways as well, because there are some
Hmm.
men that have mummy issues. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And there are some men that are dealing with mummy issues, and then that's by the way they don't know how to treat women, right? So I think
Hmm.
if you, I'm not saying you have to tolerate this, but when you're getting into a relationship, I think you got to be very careful because if that's something that you're not here for and you haven't got the empathy for that, then you're gonna have to, in my opinion, move because you're gonna end up hurting each other.
I think it's funny as you say that because to go onto the father issue. I think a lot of this is going to sound, this isn't supposed to sound like a blanket statement. There is context to
Okay.
it, but I think a lot of the issues that we're having in regards to dating, alongside community issues and I guess development of children's growth, if I can put it like that, is to do with fatherless homes. And what I mean by that is that if we talk about it from the dating point of view, like you said, the idea of the father for the daughter is supposed to be that their first love, right? And
Mm.
if they don't have a relationship or they have an absent father, they seek this from other men. If we look at it
Mm-hmm.
through guys, even when we go back to the original point when we were talking about gangs and we were talking about brotherhood, the reason
Mm-hmm.
why also young men get involved with gangs is because that sense of unity and they portray that as what healthy masculinity is,
Yeah,
which obviously
facts.
it isn't, but it's the most basic traditional form of masculine or most like what's the word I'm looking for? Not barbaric. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, like raw, or just almost like the raw
Yeah.
masculinity, right?
Yeah.
The idea of violence and money and excessive women, all this sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's usually from fatherless home stuff, etc. So I think a lot of it goes into it. Even when we talk about mental health and we talk about emotions, there's some guys who we talk about guys speaking, but there's guys who are highly emotional. So they let their anger dominate them. They
100%.
they let their reactions dominate them, and they
100%.
have outcomes which are negative. And I think an involvement of a father suggests that yeah, it's okay to have these emotions, but you have a moment of anger or you
Yeah.
have a moment of violence towards someone else, you hurt someone else, it affects your life in this way. But
Yeah.
um, it's something which I think this is the thing. It's about to me, yeah, like I don't think you should share your emotions and everything else, but it's about understanding your emotions, recognizing them, and not
Yeah.
bottling them up. But when we're told from other people about, oh, just let all of your emotions out, feel your emotions in real time, like that doesn't work. Like that doesn't work for men. Like that's not how men should deal with it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's the advice that going back to my point of like if you're in a fatherless home,
Yeah.
that is the advice you'll get from mothers, sisters, etc., aunties, whatever. Oh, let him feel his emotion. He should share. He should cry if he's upset all the time. He should do this. He should do that. Right? Do you know what I mean? But if you
Yeah.
have a father presence, he will still say recognize your emotion, but understanding you shouldn't let it control you. Because once you let emotions control you, it's game over. It's game over in every sense of the word, in my
I
opinion.
think I think I think men should understand it's okay to cry, but I
Hmm.
also believe that it's okay to cry in a time and place.
Yes,
In my
yes.
humble opinion,
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think
and
that's
I feel
fair.
like in terms of like venting, I think for men we need to vent more because sometimes the solution that we think from the problem that we're going through is not the solution that actually brings a positive outcome.
Definitely.
So for example, like
Mm.
somebody might cut me up through road rage, yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm vexed about it. I'm vexed about it. I'm mad. I see my man now. I'm giving it like let's look. What are you doing? He's not
Mm-hmm.
backing down. I'm not backing down. I
Mm-hmm.
lick a man down because I think that's the solution to end that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I take his life by accident. Now I'm in jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's based on me not being able to control my emotion and
Mm-hmm.
not being able to say to myself, do you know what? So this is what I do now. This is for me personally. If I get angry and I get mad, yeah, give me 5 minutes just to
Mm-hmm.
get me, let me get it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get it all out. And then you know what? Good, we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Because more time for me, and like I say, I can't speak for everybody else. Anger used to be my first response. Now, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying I'm perfect. I'm not holier than holy. I tell you that for free. Yeah. I try to pray. I
Mm-hmm.
really try to pray when I'm going through it. In
Mm-hmm.
the same respect, though, I realize that I'm not holier than holy. And there are going to be times where I'm going to start cussing out bad words. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to know that, you know what? As long as I've got that done, right, there's too much for me to lose and it's my pride and my ego that's not allowing me to basically get to a point where I'm like, I feel like I'm violated. That's what
But
it is for me.
you know, it's funny you say about the about pride and ego. I believe that the most important thing to men is respect.
Yeah,
And I
facts.
think, and I think respect, like ego, all these other things, they go into it. But when you feel like you've disrespected, that's like a trigger for most men.
100% violation. Yeah, yeah,
That is a trigger
100%.
straight away. Oh, I
100%.
feel even when you think about, but this is the cycle, right? Someone feels disrespected, they react to someone who's disrespected them. Reaction is usually violence. It's not just there's only so much you can like get into an argument with someone before it ends in violence, right? Because with men, there's always an underlying threat of violence. That goes into whatever situation that goes into. That outcome will never be a positive situation. You know, it'll either go one way, someone gets arrested, another way, someone gets hurt, someone goes to jail, someone does this, someone all because of that disrespect. And it's like I don't think, I suppose, just not my personal experience, but from
Yeah,
what I understand and looking around, I don't, when it comes to relationships, I think most, maybe my generation kind of get it, but the younger generation, they don't understand the potency of disrespect.
yeah,
And because I think part of that's to do with like social media, whatever, people can talk whatever they want in the comments, but outside it's a different story, you know. Um, but I think people really undermine this, and I try to explain this to like how can I explain this? I'm trying to explain it in a I think for the most like okay, let me simplify
yeah.
it.
Just be real with it. Yeah,
Oh, you don't want me to do that, bro. You don't
yeah.
want me to do
We just
that.
try not to get
No, no.
cancelled. Yeah,
Too late, man. Too late. I tell you, do your research, man. I'll tell you, I saw you, that ship has sailed. No, no. What it is, yeah. So I grew up with women. I have five sisters in it. I have my
yeah,
father and everything else, yeah. But I got five sisters, and I think the issue is with that situation is that being the only boy is that they need to understand as much as I have to respect their feelings because that's important to them, they have to
mhm,
respect my boundaries because boundaries ties to respect.
yeah,
So that's what's important to me and that's what's important to them.
yeah,
So even understanding that, like I don't think women really fully understand the potency of that. So even when I see like some of these little videos and a couple are arguing and fucking a girl's like poking a guy in the head and like
yeah,
I don't think it's very dangerous in my opinion. Like I said, I've got older sisters and younger sisters,
yeah,
and I always say to all of my sisters about all guys know not all guys know not to hit women,
yeah.
right? But there's going to be some guys who don't know that.
They don't
So
care, and they don't
don't
care.
act, yeah. So
Yeah,
don't act wild because you don't want to find out which
yeah,
guy
yeah.
this is.
Facts, and
Do you know what I mean?
that's the
Basically,
reality.
and
That's the
that's like the
reality.
safest way of putting it. I think they really underestimate the like guys between guys understand there's always like an underlying threat of violence.
Yeah.
So it's like I had a conversation the other day with someone. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when guys talk, they don't talk like how we're talking now, like straight on, like
No, no,
face to
no, no.
face,
It's always side to
or an
side. Yeah.
angle,
And
on
you
an
know,
angle.
and that's the reason why. Sorry to interject. That's the reason
No,
why
no.
a lot of the pubs, right? You don't see them having the stools face to face. You see the pubs actually the
Oh, is it?
stools being side to side because men looking front on to each other,
It's
it signifies
confrontational.
confrontational. So
Exactly that.
and this is where, as I said to you, you'll notice a lot of your conversations that you come from with your brethren might be when you're in the car
Yeah,
because of the fact you're side to side. Do you get what I'm
yeah.
saying? A lot of that stuff. But anyway, sorry, continue. You were saying,
No, no, that's an excellent point. And then to compare, women usually are front
yeah,
facing when they talk. Yeah. So, and I think I was out at a bar and I was saying to someone, look around, like look at the groups around us,
yeah,
and they're mixed groups. You know, males talking, females talking, and look how they're positioning their body language.
yeah, yeah,
And I think they don't understand this, and this is why like we go back to even like the space that you're in.
yeah,
Sport can get very confrontational, very
yeah,
like
yeah,
heated, very quickly. But we realize that on the field, on the pitch, whatever it is, it stays there
yeah,
really.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
just stays there. It's just like passion because the way we think generally is that we are fighting towards a goal. Obviously, figuratively in this case, but also metaphorically, like we strive on those kind of challenges to get to a result. And this is why sport is so important for guys.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I think, but you know, you was going back to like, you know, you saying going back to like the relationship side of things where women
Hmm.
need to understand respect and everything like that, and men, like, and how disrespectful some women can get with the poking in, and people are in relationships that do that. I, I, I personally, in my humble opinion, think those are the relationships for me that you wouldn't even want to aspire to. Do you get what I'm
Hmm. Of
saying?
course.
Like, and I think like you've got to have a good woman with you. Like, for example,
Mhm,
um, my partner, like
mhm,
when it, it sh- I can go to hers and feel
mhm.
like I don't have to be a man. And when I
Okay.
say that, I mean like I feel like I can take off the cape. I don't have to
Mhm,
worry about looking around. I don't have to worry about who's coming into the yard. I don't have to worry about just being the protector 24/7. I can
mhm.
just have a bit of downtime.
Okay.
And that space is needed because of the fact that you can't always be that man,
Mhm,
because we've constantly been been put in a position where we have to be this strong person. And I get it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, as men we're supposed to lead. I do understand that. But in the same respect as well, if we if we don't charge up, yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of things that are going to be doing a disservice to the people that we're actually supposed to lead. Do you get what I'm
mhm,
saying? So I feel like unless you have that and this is where I love the community that I have as well with Saving Souls, because when my sister died in 2022, going back to when you were saying about us as men don't actually make new friends, right? I didn't think it was the community that I made through the football that was going to keep me here when my sister died, because
mhm,
I was like, I was at the point where I was like, you know what, like if this is the pain that you feel when you lose someone,
mhm,
like close to you like this, I've still got my mum, still got my nan, I've still got my other brothers and sisters. If that's the pain that you want to feel, I don't want to be here anymore because I don't want to experience this pain. But because of the fact that I had this brotherhood within this footballing community that has now been built through all of those people, right? It got to a place where they kept me here. They kept me here, bro. Do you get what I'm saying? So I feel like although you say that you don't make you in our 30s, we don't really make new friends, but
mhm.
just because one of my brethrens I used to go to college with them and everything like that doesn't mean that the person that I've met maybe a year ago wouldn't do the same exact thing for me that they wouldn't do. Do you get that they would do? Do you get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So sometimes I feel like we isolate and cut ourselves off to meeting new friends, because the same way that if we break up with a girl, we'll go and find a new girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So we're not going to be
Mhm,
like, okay, do you know what? Nah, man, let's long. I'm done with girls. I'm not going to make a new. I'm not going to find a new girlfriend. The same day
mhm,
that we would do that, why would you cut yourself off? And I understand it to some degree, because there's a lot of, and I don't want to continue throwing the word trauma around, because I think trauma, narcissist, gaslight is all a
yeah.
word now that everybody's just throwing around. You get what I'm saying? Like, these
Yeah.
are all words, right?
Misogyny,
Yeah,
misogyny. That's
exactly
my
that.
favorite one.
Misogyny and everything like
That's my
that. There's
favorite
all
one,
words
man.
that are just being thrown around right about now. But I honestly do believe that there are a lot of trauma and traumatic responses that we have in terms of not finding new friendships, in terms of not going to certain places, in terms of
Mhm,
not being around certain environments, because of the fact that from what we've been brought up with, that's how we are. Men in
mhm,
particular, especially in Caribbean household, don't tell
mhm,
nobody your business.
mhm,
If so, when you get to a stage where you've been told don't tell nobody your business, and then it's big boys don't cry. When you get to
mhm.
our age, bro, yeah,
Yeah.
and we're struggling, who are we gonna talk to?
I think this is the thing. Well, this is the thing that's about who. It goes back to what you were saying before. Actually, it's about who to talk to, choosing the right person. I never really
Exactly.
thought about it like that, but when I look back, even my own personal experience is about having that level of communication of someone you be able to talk to. So I've lost some people before. I know, and I think a lot of it came from people they felt like they couldn't speak to anyone. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean?
mm,
And I think I've got quite a good relationship with my dad. I feel like I can always speak to him about stuff, right?
yeah,
And I want to build that relationship with my son also.
yeah.
The It's like I'm not his pal, I'm still his parent, but I want him to know that he can come to me for anything good or
Love
bad,
that.
because I think this is the big situation where people get in over their head, whether that be you know, it could be crime, it could be debt, it could be gambling, it could be whatever, but you need someone to know that, okay, whatever you do, if you're serious about, or addiction, that's another one. If
Yeah,
you're serious about trying to change, like, I'm here to help you,
yeah.
you know.
Facts, facts.
And it's hard to communicate that to someone in words, you know. So especially if we talk about the older generation, our parents' generation, they're not like,
Yeah,
yeah, like they're not really touchy feely
yeah,
like
yeah,
that, you
yeah,
know. So they have to find their own way to express that, you know. So that's what the difficult thing is. So I believe that our generation, at least figured out a way to communicate that to younger generations. So if we have children, we're able to say to them, look, we love you, we care about you, we want you to be safe. Even I saw something really funny actually before. Dave Chappelle, right, the comedian,
Yeah,
and he was saying about his son rang it. His son's like 16, and he rang him and he said, "Look, I'm at a party, and my friend's been drinking and stuff, and you told me to ring you if I was in a situation, so you could organize getting me home or come and get me, so I'm not in a situation." And he's all like, "Oh, like man, like you're ringing me out, like I appreciate you ringing me and all this, but it's like, yo, I'm at the same party." But yeah, it's a little joke there, but it's
but you
but
know,
it's that kind of communication is just like, look, I'm not gonna judge you. I want you to be able to, because some people don't have that. I've noticed this a lot. Some people don't have that conversation, especially when I was younger, where they could ring a parent because they're afraid, oh, they get in trouble. But would they rather take that risk of getting in trouble, or would they rather be safe? So, like when I first started driving, which was years ago now, he's just always had that. My dad had this conversation with me about driving, about how it's dangerous. Like a
yeah,
vehicle could kill a person, be
yeah,
cautious, etc. But he's like, look, if something happens to the car, it's not a big deal. You crash the car, you bump the
yeah,
car, whatever. It's not a big deal. Like you can always get another car, but we can't get another you. So you have to
facts.
prioritize your safety. And it's
Yeah,
just having a conversation like that, realizing that having that self worth of you're important to us, you're important to other people. Like when you were saying earlier about the situation there you had with your sister and your family, that your family, your other family, even though you lost a family member, that doesn't negate you were talking about the pain. Now, if you decided to go the other way, that pain would be felt by your other family members, your
100,
other
bro.
siblings will.
And that's the facts, bro. Do you get what
Mm,
I'm saying? Because it got to a point where I was like all of that pain that I would be going through, right? If I went down the other way, I could have been putting them on the same thing. Do you get what I'm saying? And this
mm,
is why I'm so grateful to God that God, because I lost my faith at that time as well, but God just restored it. There's a story that I won't go into because it's a bit too long, but the way that it came about, I just said I have to be obedient. And I think going back to what you were saying about talking, I think in my personal opinion, right, this is why I think, and it's not always the case, unfortunately, but I do feel like there needs to be both both male and female presence within growing a child. And that doesn't
mm,
necessarily mean it
mm,
needs to be a father because the father might not be there and the father and also as well because I also want to break this stigma of like everybody thinks about, and once again this is just my humble opinion, a lot of people think that, oh, because they come from two parent households they're better. I've seen people that have co-parented better than people that are in two parent households because of the fact, right,
mm.
that within some people within two parent households are actually unhappy and children can actually pick up on that, right? So what
I
I'm
no, no,
yeah,
go
go on.
go go go.
So
I,
what I would say is that the reason why I say that there needs to be a dynamic between the two, right,
mhm,
is because of the fact that let's say for example, and I use this example a lot. If, for example, you've got a young boy or a young girl, right, and they're at
mhm,
the park and they're on the swing and
mhm,
they fall off the swing and
mhm.
they graze their knee, nine times
Yep.
out of 10, they're going to run
Mhm.
home to mum because they want
Yep.
that
Yep.
comfort. They want that
Mhm.
whole kind of like feeling good and everything like that. Mum's going to make me feel better, blah, 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 blah. Tuck me in, put me in the bath, all blah, blah, blah. Same scenario, you know what's coming
Mhm.
now. Same
Yep.
scenario, but they get pushed off of that
Mhm.
swing, yeah,
Mhm.
they're running straight to daddy. They're
Yeah.
running
Yeah.
straight to daddy because it's like, no, that's danger. That's
Mhm.
for me, senses danger. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I feel like for example, I wasn't an angel growing up, but the foolishness that I used to get into, do you think that I'm calling my mum so that what she can go out there and go and get her head bust as well? And then all of a sudden, there's another madness. So there's a lot of things that my mum doesn't actually know that I've gone through. There's a lot of
Mhm.
madnesses where like things have happened where, to be quite frank, I should have died. I could have got to a point where you know what, somebody should have taken my life, but God spared it. But and this is before I knew God. But like I can't call my mum and tell her, "Yo, mum, just nearly got stabbed on the 208." You know,
Mhm.
what's that gonna do for my mum? Do you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
However, if I had that male role model, right, I probably would have went to them because that means security for me. But then
Mhm.
that's why you turn to, and let me not speak for everyone, but this is why I turned to my peers around me, which was the road. Do you get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I turned to them. I turned to them as my brethren and thought that that was, and I think as well, take into consideration the word gang. A lot of people use the word gang and think it's just about violence, crud, and all sorts of anger
Mhm.
management. A lot of time, gang is a community of people that protect each other,
Mhm.
actually protect each other, and not necessarily on this thing of where we're going to go out and rob you. If you cause trouble onto us, right? Because I know there's certain bad men out there, yeah. Like there's a certain, I'm not going to say the actual, I'm not going to actually say the club because I'm not going to bear it up. But there's a certain spot that I go to, right? And there's
Mhm.
a whole like Albanian mafia that just chill in this club, chill in this place, yeah. Right? It's a bar.
Mhm.
You wouldn't know they're involved in any foolishness, yeah,
Mhm.
until you provoke them.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? They're still a gang. They're still a unit, but it's
Mhm.
until you provoke them. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So for
And
me,
I think,
yeah, go on.
sorry, go on to finish your point
Now I
there.
was just gonna say, so for me, I feel like there's got to be the dynamics between the two. There's got to be a male and a female within growing up a child, right? I think
Yeah,
it
I
definitely
think
has.
I think with that, I'm a big advocate of that because I'm a big advocate of the nuclear family in general, right? So there's a few things that I want to touch on there. So it's best, I think, mum and dad are the best situation
Yeah,
for the best outcome for children for, good experience, right? You touched on co-parent then. Yeah, if they can co-parent and they have a relationship with each of their parents and there's not any restrictions to see any either of the parents, that's good as well.
yeah,
However, there's a few things that people don't know in regards to the single parent sort of thing. So with a single parent thing, being a single father, they have actually, let me go back one. If you're a single mother,
okay.
statistically, you put your child at a worst advantage. And what I mean by that is that like they're 90% more chance they have a 90% chance of being homeless. They have a 65% of having behavioral issues. They have 70%
Oh
of
wow, I
these are
didn't know
general
that.
percents, but I have the
Yeah.
exact percentages.
Okay, I didn't
But
know that.
they're like 70% more likely to go to jail for violent crimes.
Okay.
That they're more likely to have educational issues. The list is long.
Mm-hmm.
And so the single father actually has the same outcomes as in being raised in a two-parent household. So if a single father raised a child
Okay.
and a mum and a dad raised a child, they would both have the same outcomes in regards to, know, some of the things that I mentioned in regard. So they wouldn't have a high chance of behavioral issues. They wouldn't have a
Yeah.
high chance of crime, etc., etc. Um, so for
What do
me,
you
and I
think that's
think
down to?
what the stats itself,
Yeah. Why?
or
Why?
the
Why
I
do you think
think
that? Why do you think that is? Because I can't talk on something that I don't know too much about.
so. I believe it's a combination of things. So one of the things is that men and women, mothers and fathers, show children love differently, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we've been taught as a society that the mother's love or the mother's way to show love is the only correct way, which is, I mean, it's just not fact. Like it just doesn't make sense, right? Because and mothers usually coddle their children, especially their sons, a lot more than fathers do. Now that
Yeah.
doesn't mean the father has to be like, you know, a super, super, super strict, but there's certain ways that fathers parent that work aligned with mother's parenting style. It's two different styles. So the way I describe it is this as if you've got two different types of managers at work. They've both got the same goal. One of them works this, but ultimately they're working towards the same goal. Right? In this case, it's raising a child.
Okay.
So I think guys can, like you explained earlier, there's situations that only can be dealt with from a father. Even how to deal with certain things, even emotional regulation, fathers are the best for that. And even when you talk about what speaking about earlier in regards to um, women having no father present or they have a negative view of men, etc. All these things go into both genders. So a father's
Yeah.
involvement for both genders significantly positively impacts them. So like say teenage pregnancy, like fathers in the home, the kids have a lower percentage of being a teenage parent. Low, literally,
Yeah.
it's crazy the amounts of stats there are. But I think we also live in a world now where people almost pedestalize single mums. Like on Father's Day, they turn around and they're like, "Oh, like doing the job of two people, like you're such a hero." Like even that they're trying to take away from fathers.
Mm,
Like
mm,
but before this never used to be a massive thing for me. Like I have a
okay.
very good relationship with my father. My father was in the house the entire time. My
Yeah.
parents have been married 35 plus years. So I've had but he didn't come from that background. You see what I'm
Mm,
saying? So he wanted to change the generate. Someone spoke earlier about generational trauma and he
yeah.
wanted to like break the cycle. So he started to break the
Yeah.
cycle and I've continued to do so. And, I would want my son to continue to do so as well.
Yeah.
And the impact it has is crazy. It can
So
it only benefits society as a whole.
do you think though those stats would probably be higher on women because the majority of kids do stay with their mothers?
Yes.
So you think the stats would obviously be higher for that because the pool of men that actually take on their children compared to the pool of women would be significantly higher. So you'd probably get um less of an outcome with men than there would be with women. Do you think?
No, no, I don't. No, 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 no. Because this has been statistically proven. So even if you look at the CDC, they say that black fathers actually, and
Yeah.
specifically, make the most active fathers. So I
Okay.
think the situations that we have at the moment is that let me word myself correctly. I think the only person who just has to have a baby. Look, men control access to the relationships, women control access to sex. And despite what we, I guess, generally think, women decide if a baby's being born, right?
Hmm.
Like regardless of, so if the father says he doesn't want the baby, but she
Hmm.
wants the baby, she's having the baby. Okay,
Okay.
so we
Yeah.
can. That's just like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a, a statement of fact. So I think going back to your earlier point about the involvement of fathers and women not having that, and therefore it's affecting the negative opinion of men based on that if that's their experience or that's their
Yeah.
background, therefore they don't pick the best suitor, let's say. So if you don't pick a best suitor and you pick someone who isn't, I think when it comes, especially when people are younger, regardless of gender, we're attracted to more primitive things. So
Yeah.
women are usually attracted to more primitive things, bad boys, excess, like hyper masculinity, even toxic masculinity, right? That kind
Yeah.
of thing. And those are the men that who gets them excited, for use of a better word. And those are the ones who usually end up having the babies. Those kind of guys are not very commitment focused.
Yeah.
So they get involved with someone who has that reputation, let's say,
Yeah.
decide to have the baby. He's not interested because based on the kind of character that he is, which is what men judge other men on, his character. So
Mhm.
a father would look at a man who wants to be involved with his daughter, what his character is like, and whatever. So I think what happens is this happens, and then now you're obviously in a situation you have decided to have a child, etc. And now they're blaming not them. Sorry, I should be careful with my terminology, but in this particular situation,
Yeah.
that person would have a negative effect of men because she's had a bad experience with men. But my argument would be that you made a conscious decision. We spoke about accountability
Yeah.
to decide to have a baby, even though this person, this guy who's the father, had no interest in being
You're
a
not
father
interested
and made that clear.
yeah, in being
They
involved.
made that clear. If he sold her a dream, that's a completely different story.
Yeah, I was just about to say
But
that because there are men that do sell dreams. Like sell yeah.
people do sell a dream. I'm not going to deny that they do sell dreams. But then I think if this guy, let's call him guy B, a guy A, yeah. So guy A already has children from elsewhere, and now he's involved with this woman, and he's left two other women with babies. What makes you think that he's not going to do the same to you? So there's a level of like consciousness you need on the situation. But when feelings are involved, relationships are involved,
Yeah.
I can understand how people get caught up. I suppose I think the bottom line is for this. I think now in the last, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so, people have been a little bit more like, I'm not saying everyone should get married, but I will say that people are a bit blasé about having children. I've spoken to people. I'm married and I have a child,
Yeah,
and I've spoken to people who say that, oh, now marriage, man, I don't know about marriage. Like,
yeah,
it's a bit serious and that. Like, but I'm like, bro, you got two kids, and he's like,
yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
like
yeah,
kids in it, like minor in it. And I'm like, bro, it's not minor, bro. It's actually
yeah,
harder to it sounds very negative, but to be married, if you don't work, you just get divorced, in it. Like, I'm not
yeah,
not that I'm an
yeah,
advocate for that, but I'm
yeah,
just,
yeah. Trust
it's what it
me.
is. But
Yeah,
if you have a child with someone and it doesn't work,
you
you're
can't
still
just
linked.
leave. Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
still linked to that person, even if you don't see your child. You're still linked to that person in some kind of way. And I think people have got the wrong idea. I don't know when it happened where I'm kind of ranting now, but
no,
I
you're
don't know
not.
when I don't know where it happened where people thought, oh, having a kid's no big deal, but get married's a big deal.
Yeah, but I think once again, in my humble opinion, I think the way that the world looks at things now, from a worldly
Mhm,
perspective, um, um, I think the way that the world looks at things differently now is the reason why this is cool. Like I think
yeah.
that there's like even like if we look at it from a point of where for some of the younger generation, there's no value for life.
Mm,
Like a lot, some of them are just willing to just take people's lives over the ends, just like
mm,
over the postcode. You get what I'm saying? And I think for me, this is why subconsciously that my dad he's got 13 kids, well 12 now, my sister Selena, and quite a few different women,
mm,
right? And one of the things I've said that is I will never be like him. That I vowed to never be like that man. Do you get what I'm
mm.
saying? Um, and only now I'm in a place where I'm like, do you know what? I actually can't wait to have a child because I want to be able to come home to my child, number one. But number
Mhm,
two is because I actually feel like I've really dealt with a lot of the stuff that I was dealing with internally,
mhm.
that I'm able to make sure that I don't pour everything that I was going through onto my child.
I think that's, you know what, that's, I'm glad you said that, actually, because when I spoke earlier about breaking the cycle, my granddad has like 14 kids as well, and so I think how I mean, he's an old boy now, but
Yeah, yeah,
obviously some of the situations that he's had obviously has affected my dad, and so as a
mm,
result, my dad doesn't want that to affect me,
yeah,
and so but he still had to learn to deal with it in some kind of
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so people don't want to, people can go one or two ways. They can either repeat the cycle or they can break the
Yeah,
cycle, right? And I think yourself, the situation I described, is people trying to break the cycle. And I think we need more people at least trying to do that. I think some people just think they're kind of, as we spoke about, the kind of victim idea of like just going into that kind of victim mentality of like, oh, well, this is kind of just
yeah.
what my family does or whatever.
But we also got to remember as well, once again, and this is not me making an excuse for people, because I think maybe because I'm in that world, like,
Mhm.
and don't get it twisted. Like, I look at it like there are people out there, like footballers love football,
Yeah,
mechanics love cars. I don't love mental health. Do you get what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's one of those ones where it's something that I really wanted to help people through, and I think sometimes I think sometimes what I have to remember is that although those people that are growing up with those trauma from parents, for some of them, they're still the hero in that person's eyes. They're
mm,
still the hero. Do you get what I'm saying? Like my dad may be doing a madness, but my dad is still the hero. I look at it from my mum's perspective, right? So I'm with my mum every day, yeah. But then my dad gets me the Arsenal kit every single year, and all of a sudden, he's the main man.
mm,
That's how I felt. Daddy's got me the Arsenal kit. Daddy's got me this. Daddy's got me that because I'm young and that's what I care about. Daddy's got me trainers. Blah 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 blah.
mm,
But like I'm not looking at it from a point of where like, raw, we've got electricity. I'm actually eating. I'm
mm.
actually got food on the table to go. I've got clothes on my back to go to the school. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? And I feel like as you get older, I feel like as you were saying, yes, there are single mothers that make wrong decisions, right? But they're and I don't feel like a single mother can play both roles. but I definitely do know there are single mothers out there that are trying to play both roles, right? And not necessarily getting it right, but they are trying. They are
Mm.
trying to play both roles, right? Not, as I said, not necessarily getting it right, but they're trying to because they understand the lack of absence of the father. So I'm saying that to say, yes, I understand that women do make the decisions and everything like that, but then also as well, like that we do have to put accountability on the men because there are some men out there that are actually just saying sweet nothings. They're
Yeah, yeah.
actually just basically building pipe dreams. And I think what you just said to, like, for example, you said that let's say for example a man's got one child here with somebody else, and then they meet you, like you've made the decision, like, come on, if he's not been faithful here, he's not been faithful here. If we go through life thinking that, you know what, and once again, this is not me saying that I'm
Mm.
making excuses for people, this is just in general, but if we
Yeah,
go
yeah.
through life not giving people grace and not giving them the opportunity and take away from relationships, just in life in general, we're going to lose out on a lot of people based on the fact that they could be actually be trying to change their life around. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I know
Mm.
for a fact there's certain man before that I'll be like, you know what? I wouldn't even be seen dead with that you because that you's nuts. Like, but they've changed around so much where I'm like, you know what, raw, they're really trying to put their life on, they're really trying to change their life. But if I go off of the fact of the old person that I knew, there's a potential that I could miss out on somebody that actually, you know what, they're a cool person.
Mm.
So
I, I do agree to a degree. I understand, and I understand what you're saying about almost giving someone a second chance to some degree, but I think you still have to go on with an air of caution
do your due
because people,
diligence. Yeah.
yeah,
Do your
because
due
I think
diligence.
people's past do dictate their future. It's like you need to, it's like you go for a job and people have and someone has, got fired from 3 jobs prior, it's like, okay, am I gonna get? I can try and give him a chance, but there
Yeah.
has to be. And this is this. I say, look, we live. If I'm perfectly honest,
Yeah.
we live in a world now where we have a lot of medical advances, and by that stage is that I don't think I think people should do whatever they want to do. If people are consenting adults, do whatever you want to do. I think people just should just be like you said earlier, have more of a value for life, or at least being a. If you're like I would tell like my son's like 2, so I don't have to have this conversation for a while, but I would explain to him that, if he's 15 and he wants to go and like have sex and stuff, I'm like, look, the act is easy, in it. It's not about the act, it's about everything that comes with it. And this is the
Yeah.
important stuff. The emotional stuff, you've got to think about the other person, you've got to think about, oh, not getting this person pregnant. There's, diseases out there. You need to think of the whole thing. It's not just
Mm.
one act, there's everything surrounding it you'd consider, right? Because if you're an adult and you think you're mature enough to do that, you need to hear about the mature consequences of everything. So,
Agreed.
with that being said, I think people need to be a bit more disciplined in not in what they do. I think people can do whatever they want, but I just mean just not get caught up so much and really like I don't really. It's like I know people who haven't grown. I know people who haven't grown up without fathers because the mother is not letting them see the kid, or
Mm.
they just feel like one of many because their father has loads of kids, or like there's loads of situations. But ultimately, as much as I can blame the guy, it's also the girl who's made that decision to say, okay, well, I'm going to now have this child, knowing it is, and I will give the grace of like it's knowing that that
Yeah.
person's not going to be like that. No, I'm not talking about guys who are selling dreams, right? Them
Yeah.
guys are, we've all sold dreams.
Yeah.
What can I
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I think it's like people sometimes when I speak to people, it's not just about this in general, that if they've made decisions about their life and they're not trying to change or they don't accept the accountability
Yep.
and want people to almost feel sorry for them or to sympathize with them,
Yeah.
which is what we do now a lot as a society. People give people too much grace, in my opinion. It's like then the people are just too accommodating now, and I think there has to be a line. It's
Yeah.
gone so far now;
You've
it's
got to,
ridiculous.
you've got to know when to say I forgive you
Yeah,
and we can talk, or
hmm
when to say I can forgive you, but don't call my phone again. Like
yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. That's
there's
it.
got to be two.
Yeah, we see it so much now where the people don't want to. hurt anyone's feelings. And I think it goes into a bigger issue of the societal stuff of people like being too soft, for use of a better word. But when I mean soft, I don't mean that in a derogative term. I just mean in the sense of people need rejection. People need stuff to help them overcome stuff. You need to have, even no matter how small the obstacle is, sometimes having obstacles is good because it builds character.
Yeah,
And going back to what we were saying before, fatherhood, father, that's what they do. They ensure that, okay, you have an obstacle, but these things happen. You get up, you get back, dust yourself off and get back up, right? I think now there's too much of like, no, 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 it's that person's fault, or
yeah.
like, oh, it's them, the problem's them, you're
But
perfect, like that kind of
you know what
stuff.
do you know what I think the problem is in, well, not even the problem, but I think what um I think happens with a lot of us is that
Mhm.
a lot of people want to be liked.
Oh, I'm losing you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, hello.
Can you hear me? Hello? You just froze. Can you hear me?
His signal's gone, yeah. Okay, let me try and invite him again, and we'll. Oh, there you go. I'm gonna invite you again, bro. You cut off there. Yeah, man. I just
Yo, you hear me now?
Yeah, so yeah. I lost you. You were saying about
Yeah, I
how
think a lot of people.
the pub.
I
Yeah,
think as much as we claim that we don't care about who likes us or who not, a lot of people wants to be liked. A lot of people want to be loved, and I feel like what happens is, like you said, like where people like give too much grace is
hmm
because I personally feel like, how do I put this? You gotta understand that, you know what, when when you've been done dirty, right? You're allowed to sit and live with that. You're allowed to sit with that and say, you know what? Although I've been done dirty, I don't actually want to chill with you anymore. Because I
hmm
feel like a lot of people think that, oh, I've got to be the bigger person, right? And
Nope.
I personally
Mm.
believe that you got to forgive people for your own purpose, not
Yeah.
for them, for you. So if it means you forgive somebody, but it means, right, that you're gonna distance yourself from them, sometimes it just has to go that way.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be comfortable in knowing that you have to you when you separate yourself from people, that there might be another story that's going to come out and basically make it look like you're the bad person within this. I always say, yeah, that whatever the person is looking for, they're going to find it anyway. Rob, there are going to be some
Mm.
people that will listen to you and think you're inspirational. There are going to be some people that are going to watch you and think, nah, don't like him. He thinks he's this, he thinks he's that. Whatever
hmm
that person is looking for, they're going to find it anyway, bro. So
Yeah.
if you was worrying about trying to cater to everybody, right, you'll never win. Do you get what I'm saying? And
hmm
I think that's what, going back to mental health, I feel like sometimes that's what a lot of people battle with. The internal battle with trying to be there for everyone, trying to be liked by everyone. And in society, I feel like for me, you've got to focus on your well-being first before you can focus on anybody else. Everybody's always quick to save everyone. You've got to focus on you before you can help anybody else.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to finish, man. A
Exactly
great way
that.
to finish.
Exactly
I
that.
think it's this conversation went in a few different directions, which is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it too, man.
No, thank you for having me, bro. Thank you for having me. And for anyone that is struggling out there or anybody that is going through anything, um, definitely look up Saving Souls Hub. Like I said, we've got 9 different projects, and we've got free self-defense classes for women, free men's forum, free women's forum, men's football, food bank, back to school haircuts, half terms for young people, women's mental health and girls team, sponsored by Octopus Energy, and we're trying to basically get to a point now where our men and women's forum, we're going to join it together so that men and women can actually have conversations. So similar to what we were just talking about here,
Hmm.
it'd be good to hear the dynamics between the two in the space, but basically make it more respectful and make it a place where nobody's blaming each other. Maybe just give advice to people. And the last thing I will say, if anybody out there is struggling and they are going through anything, your brethren and people around you would rather hear you vent and be frustrated 1,000 times rather than attend your funeral once. So please make sure that you do reach out and you search for people that are in your community that can support you when you're going through something.
Thank you. And what are the socials again? The shout out the socials for me.
At Saving Souls Hub. At Saving
At
Souls
Saving
Hub. So
Soul Hub.
yeah, at Saving Souls Hub, you can find it on Instagram. Instagram's the main one. So yeah, at Saving Souls Hub. And if you go on TikTok, I'm terrible at TikTok. So, but at Saving Souls Hub at TikTok as well. God loves you, people. That's what I will leave you with. God loves you.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for your time, man. I
No
appreciate
problem,
it.
my
I'm gonna
brother.
put some of the best bits together for conversations. I'm gonna tag you across the socials as well.
All right, love, my bro. Thank you again.
Take it
Yeah.
easy, man.
Take care. God
Thank you.
bless. Love.
Take care.
Yeah.
That was a great conversation, man. Great conversation. Wow. Some of the stuff he's doing is fantastic. Like I said, make sure you follow him, Saving Souls Hub on Instagram, especially. They're also featured in the Sun newspaper. I'm gonna put together some clips and I'm gonna push some stuff out across my social media, which will be this, of course, TikTok, your host Rob, and yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Next Sunday, we're going to have a different guest, different topic. We'll kick off from 8 p.m. sharp. I'll be doing some promo for it during the week on my Instagram and on here as well. Thanks very much for those who are joining. If you haven't, drop us a follow on your way out. Catch you next time. Peace.